project that I've been working on is called the Happiness Alliance. And I've been asked to talk about a new paradigm. And so what I'd like to do is, with you, to experience what is a new paradigm. So you have this piece of paper, and please write down your ideas. At the end, we'll collect them. We'll take pictures of each one of them, of your ideas. You'll have access to that, and then we'll collate them and provide that back to you. So that's sort of the outcome. All right, there's my presentation. So I'm so honored. Thank you so much for being here. Now, to give ourselves a little energy, let's give a really, I know we did this once, but let's give a really big, huge shout out to Luis and to Damien, yeah? Woo! Thank you. And thank you, everybody, for being here right now. I talked about taking a risk, and I want to sort of set the context of what that risk is. We've heard a lot about what is coming in our world. We've heard from Laird. He talked about how we need 1,000 interventions, right? We need 1,000 examples. We're the ones that get to create that. And we may doubt that we can, right? We're like, can we do this? They need the policymakers. They need the evidence, right? And the issue of whether or not we can measure happiness has been settled by the OECD. Thank you so much. And yet, still, how many of you here are from the happiness movement? How many of you who are working in the happiness movement? And how many for you here? This is a new thing. All right, just a few of you. So when you know that when you go out and talk about happiness to a group other than this group, the first thing that you get is, you can't measure happiness, right? So there's a lot of work that we need to do in this field. So let's do this together. And when you doubt whether or not you can do it, here's what I do. I remember that 250 years ago, before we had the Industrial Revolution, things were very different. Because of the Industrial Revolution, because of that singular focus on economic growth, and it is encapsulated by the measurement of GDP, we have changed the face of our Earth. We have even changed what it means to be a human. We can do this. We can do this again. And so with this presentation, I'm hoping to experiment a little bit on how to do this and how we'll do this. So I mentioned the project that I'm working on. Some of you have heard of the Happiness Alliance. It was referred to earlier as the Happiness Initiative because it came out of Sustainable Seattle. Have any of you heard of the Happiness Alliance? Any of you taken the Gross National Happiness Index, the happiness index that we provide? Any of you? So this is a deeply grassroots, community-driven project. If tonight you want to experience a happiness index, go to happycounts.org. You can take our happiness index, which is based on Bhutan's. It was Grace of Bhutan and Karma Ura from the Gross National Happiness Commission that we are able to provide this happiness index, which we've been providing to communities all over the world since 2010 is when we started working on this, and then 2011, January, is when we first issued this. So I mentioned this piece of grassroots activism because in terms of the idea of a new economic paradigm, in terms of the idea of a new social, governmental, and personal paradigm, certainly we need the top down, right? We need the conditions of happiness. And we also need the bottom up. And that's the work that we've been doing, is working with communities all across the world, as well as providing tools and resources for individual happiness, and then also for community building. And that's all online, and it's all free. We also provide data. So I was just so we had about 70,000 people have taken our index, our happiness index, and I was just in Dubai, invited to the Dialogue for Global Happiness because, in part, I believe we provided our data to the Minister of Happiness, Uhud. I took a selfie because they're developing their their happiness index. So you saw earlier in Smart to Buy, they have that 3-point scale. They're also developing a satisfaction with life and satisfaction with the conditions of life and eudaimonia index. And I'm super excited about this. In Kuwait, we're working with our partner who works for the Minister of Communications, and I think it's the Interior. And I don't read Arabic, and unfortunately Dr. Binder isn't here. But what this says is that in Kuwait they will be measuring happiness for all of Kuwait by the government, and they'll be using our index. So this is super, super exciting. There's lots of other examples of this. You can go to the OECD Wiki Progress website for the Happiness Alliance, and you can read about some of them. So that's a little bit about the work that we're doing. So the takeaway from this is that the happiness index, which is that subjective measure of well-being based on Bhutan's gross national happiness index, it's internally and externally validated. You can use it. Your students can use it. You can use it at any level. It's freely available and translated into many different languages. I want to show you sort of an idea of how we're trying to explain what we're working on, and I'll tell you a little bit about where this comes from, and this is also on this piece of paper that I gave you, or that Mario, the wonderful Mario, who you should all know who Mario Chamorro is, been working in the happiness movement also, and Zoe Munster handed out. In 2012, I had the great honor of being invited to participate in the high-level meeting, Well-Being and Happiness Towards a New Economic Paradigm. And then that's where I met Mario, in the Civil Society Working Group. And after that, the year after that, Bhutan, Karma Ura, and the Gross National Happiness Commission brought together about 45 of sort of the leaders in the happiness, subjective well-being, and sustainability movement, including a colleague of mine who I work with at the Happiness Alliance, to create a blueprint for gross national happiness. From that, Giovannini, anybody here friends with Giovannini, Enrico Giovannini from the Italian government? He created this, what he called this way of understanding the paradigm and the paradigm shift. And so we've been continuing to work with this, and I'm just going to present this to you. And on this piece of paper that you have in your hands, if you have ideas about this, this is very much a working model to try to understand how it is that basic needs that we share with all other beings, right? Those needs for food, those needs for just a basic sense of safety, right? You back anything into a corner, it's going to attack. So those basic needs of safety and our need for shelter, how it is that those fit in with the happiness movement, with this new paradigm, and how is it that human needs fit in. So those, we've heard repeatedly about our needs for being our truly integrated selves, our needs for self-actualization, our needs for community, and for feeling a part of something bigger than ourselves and feeling like we're making a difference in that. So how do those fit in with this paradigm? And what is the role of measures? And what is what are the different ways that we can use objective and subjective measures like they do in Bhutan, right? This is an amazing work that they're doing in Bhutan, of really pairing together the objective and the subjective measures, and how can those inform both what the basic role of government is, and then how can they inform how we develop the policies that then support people to be able to develop their own happiness skills and really put value on using the happiness tools that we all know. So that breath, those 3 breaths, or whatever your practice is to bring about more compassion for yourself and for others, those skills of gratitude and of giving. So I'm not going to go too much more into this because now I want to do a little thought experiment with you. But this is very much a work in progress. I mentioned that we're super grassroots and really, we're called the Happiness Alliance because we're really interested in working with you on any level that you're open to that. So with your permission, I'll do a little thought experiment. Anybody object? All right. What if I said to you, just do, what would you say? How, would you finish that phrase? Just do, what do you say? Huh? Just do it, right? Just do it, right? And what comes up? The Nike swoosh, it's like a whole bunch of branding comes up, right? What if instead, when I was going to say that, I said, just do nothing? And it was with the same association that you have, the same kind of branding, the same kind of product delivery. Well, 200 and some years ago, Thomas Jefferson, now he is a lawyer and I also am a lawyer, so I can tell you that when a lawyer writes down words, they have specific meaning, right? You don't use words clumsily. When Thomas Jefferson wrote down that the purpose of government is to secure all people's, he said men, but all people's inalienable right to life, liberty, and pursuit of, he wrote pursuit of property, because that was the term of art. And he scratched that out, and he wrote happiness. He wrote pursuit of property. That was the term of art, was the pursuit of property. And he scratched it out, and he wrote happiness. And we all know that when he was talking about happiness, he was talking about eudaimonia, right? Eu means good, daimon means spirit, means being. He was talking about being a part of society. He was talking about fully actualizing, fully being yourself, and really having that sense of that life, this is a good life, because I am doing good. And at this point, we can see that we missed the opportunity. And we're at the cusp. We're right there with this movement. So now, we heard Laird talk about how we need 1,000 interventions. Many of you have read the World Happiness Reports. You've read about the interventions that are needed. You've heard, perhaps at the 2012 meeting, if you were there, you heard Laura Morea, the president of Costa Rica, talk about why they have the Happy Planet Index highest rating, that they took all of their funding from their defense and they put it into education and social support and keeping parks. You know about Bhutan, you know about the amazing work that Bhutan is doing, where gross national happiness is in every single one of their public policies. You can actually go online and see that. We know about Ecuador, where they have nature's rights written into the Constitution. We have enough examples of this, and yet we don't. So let's come up with some of these examples, and that's where I've got that little piece of paper. So I'll take you through a little bit of reorienting your thinking. I'm going to ask you 3 questions. Are you awake? The answer is yes. Okay. So now I'm going to ask you to close your eyes. And close your eyes if you can sleep if you want. Close your eyes, please. Or don't. Are you awake? If your answer is yes, who is awake? In a moment, I'll ask you to open your eyes. And when you do, don't open them yet, but when you do, just simply please notice that you're seeing. So open your eyes. Are you awake? So if your answer is yes, what is it that is aware that you are awake? When we have this paradigm shift, being awake will have a whole different meaning. I believe that we will be able to see the truth as it really is, that we will all be beings who are compassionate, who are wise, who are curious about ourselves, about our surroundings, who take wise action, who are joyful and balanced, have lots of energy to do the work that we need to do, and are able to focus on that work. And that's our work now, because right now, you and I are that movement. And I do believe that the greatest intervention that we can take is, yes, to be awake, and yes, to do the work, to do the wise work. And so I really, really am asking you to write down your ideas on that piece of paper, because it's you. We know this, it's you who is going to do that work. And that, in my view, is the new paradigm. Thank you.
Thank you.